$2.5 million from a single office. And nothing about it that looks impressive. No app, no product, just people and a phone that keeps ringing. I went looking for why. And honestly, I went in expecting to find some trick, some hidden catch. Instead, I found the same pattern over and over in America, in Britain, in Canada, in Australia. Same business, same result every single time. Which tells you something. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's just a handful of people who were willing to start something that looked completely unremarkable. So I pulled 38 of these apart. Real costs, real numbers. Some need real money to start. Some you could begin this weekend with almost nothing. And somewhere in this list, there's probably one sitting exactly where you already are. Number 38. Music lesson studios. Parents want their kids playing an instrument, in basically every country with a middle class. That demand doesn't move with the economy, and it doesn't really move with culture either. A studio with 6 or 7 instructors running steady enrollment sits on genuinely high margins, because your only real cost is instructor time and a room. Starting one doesn't take much. A few rooms, a handful of instructors willing to work on a split pay basis, and a sign-up sheet. The ceiling is lower than some of what's coming later on this list, but the entry cost is low too, and it scales cleanly. Add a room, add a teacher, add revenue. Number 37. Childcare centers. This one's heavily regulated almost everywhere, which sounds like a downside until you realize what regulation actually does here. It keeps casual operators out. You can't just decide to open a daycare next week the way you could open a lemonade stand. That barrier is exactly why the operators who push through it aren't fighting off constant new competition. Margins run in the mid-teens, which isn't the flashiest number on this list, but the demand is about as permanent as demand gets. Working parents have existed in every economy in human history, and they will keep existing. The families paying for this today are the same families who were paying for it 50 years ago, just adjusted for inflation. Number 36. Locksmith services. Here's the thing about locks. Nobody thinks about needing one fixed until the exact moment they're locked out. And in that moment, price barely matters. That's a strange kind of pricing power that very few businesses get to have. Gross margins land around 60 to 70%, and the demand is what people in this business actually call recession resistant, because people don't stop losing their keys during a downturn. Getting certified and equipped can cost as little as a few $1,000s, which makes the return on that investment almost embarrassingly fast. Number 35. Painting companies, run the smart way. Most people picture a painting business as one guy with a brush. The ones that actually make real money picture it differently. The owner sells the job, subcontracts out a trusted crew, and never personally touches a paintbrush again. One brand I found runs this exact model. A small office managing 4 to 8 crew partnerships, pulling in $1 million to $2 million a year in revenue. Margins land between 15 and 35%. Low barrier to start, and it scales by adding crews, not by the owner working harder. The hardest part isn't finding customers, it's finding and keeping reliable crews who'll show up on time and do quality work. Because the owners who treat their subcontractors well are the ones who build something that lasts. Number 34. Physical therapy clinics. Aging populations need this. Athletes need this. People recovering from surgery need this. That's 3 separate, permanent sources of demand stacked on top of each other, and none of them are going away. Margins sit between 15 and 30%, and once a clinic has a few therapists on staff, growth stops depending on the owner's own 2 hands. Revenue on a well-run clinic can stretch from $250,000 up past $2 million, purely based on how many treatment rooms are actually staffed and booked. Number 33. Recruitment and staffing agencies. This is one of the leanest businesses on this entire list to start. You genuinely can begin from a spare bedroom with a laptop and a phone. The biggest global players in this space, the ones you'd recognize by name, are worth tens of billions of dollars, and they started exactly there. Margins run 15 to 30%. The trade-off is that it's cyclical. It slows down when hiring slows down. But over a long enough timeline, companies never actually stop needing people. Number 32. Translation and interpretation agencies. Here's a business that's almost designed for operating across borders, because the entire point of it is bridging countries in the first place. It's remote-friendly, the global market sits north of $90 billion, and margins can climb as high as 40% once you're not paying for a physical office at all. The work itself doesn't care what country you're sitting in. That's rare. A translator in Manila can serve a law firm in London just as easily as one sitting 3 blocks away, and the agency in the middle collects margin either way. Number 31. Garage door repair. A strange little niche, but stay with me. Every garage door eventually breaks, usually the spring, and when it does, the homeowner cannot open their garage. That's not a someday problem, that's a today problem, and today problems support today pricing. Margins run 17 to 40%, and typical owners are clearing somewhere between $125,000 and $250,000 a year, from a business that most people never think about until the exact day they need it. Number 30. Bookkeeping and accounting. According to the data, this has actually been ranked the single most profitable small business category that exists. And I did not expect that when I started looking. Margins run 18 to 40%. It's entirely remote capable, and every single business on planet Earth, every single one, needs someone keeping track of the numbers. You're not selling a product that goes out of style. You're selling the thing every other business on this list also secretly needs. Number 29. Commercial pest control. Restaurants need it, apartment buildings need it, offices need it by law in a lot of places. It's contract-based, so the revenue repeats every month without you having to resell anyone, and margins land between 18 and 28%. It's also the kind of business that barely notices a recession because nobody delays dealing with a rodent problem to save money. Startup costs are genuinely low too. A truck, some equipment, and the right licensing. Often under $10,000 to get moving. Number 28. Medical spas. The average owner is pulling in somewhere between $300,000 and $375,000 a year, and margins sit around 20 to 25%. What's driving it is simple. Injectables and laser treatments have low ongoing costs but high price tags. And once you have a repeat client base, the same face is coming back every few months for the rest of their life. The industry's grown into an $18 billion business in the United States alone, and it's not slowing down. Botox and fillers used to feel like something only the wealthy did quietly. Now they've become a normal part of a lot of people's routine. And that shift in perception is the entire growth story here. Number 27. Massage and spa franchises. One well-known franchise in this space averages $1.3 million in revenue per single location, and there are over 1,000 of them. The trick is the membership model. Instead of hoping someone books a massage, you have thousands of people paying monthly whether they show up or not. Margins run 20 to 30%, and unlike most service businesses, this one has genuinely proven it scales into the thousands of locations. Here's something I started noticing around this point in the research. None of these businesses are trying to be exciting. Not one of them has a clever pitch or a slick app or a founder story you'd see on a magazine cover. They just found a task people don't want to do themselves and did it well, over and over, in the same neighborhood, for years. That's the whole secret so far. It's not more complicated than that. Number 26. Pool cleaning and maintenance. I found one father-son operation pulling in $851,000 a year, running actual pool routes. Not glamorous work. Chemicals, a truck, a route. But margins run 20 to 50%, and once you're on someone's weekly schedule, you basically stay there for years, because nobody wants to deal with pool chemistry themselves. Number 25. Coffee roasting, wholesale and retail combined. Roast your own beans instead of buying them roasted, and your gross margin jumps to somewhere between 40 and 60%. Wholesale accounts, cafes and offices buying your beans in bulk, is where this actually scales past a single storefront. One location becomes 50 accounts without 50 storefronts. Number 24. Fence installation. High ticket, straightforward, and almost everyone with a yard eventually wants one. Margins run 25 to 50%, and typical owners are clearing somewhere between $156,000 and $250,000 a year. It's blue collar, it's not exciting to talk about at a party. It is, however, one of the better margins on this entire list, and the entry cost is mostly just a truck and some basic tools. Number 23. Party and event rental equipment. Tables, chairs, tents, the stuff every wedding and graduation and corporate event needs, and nobody wants to own themselves. Margins run 25 to 40%. And here's the part that makes it work. The same inventory rents out again and again. You buy a folding table once, you rent it out 50 times a year for years. Quick gut check. If you've been keeping score, notice the range we're already sitting in. 25% margin here, 40% there, 50% a few businesses back. These aren't rounding errors. Most retail stores in the world operate on margins under 10%. Everything on this list so far is already beating that by a wide margin, and we're not even at the halfway point yet. Number 22. Commercial and high-rise window cleaning. High-rise work alone commands over $100 an hour because it requires certification most people simply don't have. Rope access, fall protection training. That barrier keeps the field thin. Margins run anywhere from 10 to 50% depending on the mix of work. And once you land a building contract, it repeats on a schedule for years. Number 21. Carpet and upholstery cleaning. One national franchise built an entire brand around this. Margins run 30 to 50%, mostly because your material cost per job is tiny, a few dollars in chemicals against a job that bills in the hundreds. Commercial contracts, offices and hotels on a recurring schedule, are where the real stability lives. Number 20. Home services roll-ups, specifically HVAC. Here's a real story. A company out of Tucson, Arizona got acquired by a larger platform. Before the deal, it was doing $30 million in revenue. After, it was doing $70 million. Same company, same service. The scaling wasn't magic. It was just capital and systems applied to a business that everyone, everywhere, eventually needs, because everyone's air conditioning eventually breaks. This is happening across the industry right now, not just in that one case. Private equity firms have figured out something simple. Buy a well-run local HVAC company, add better back-office systems, better purchasing power, better dispatch software, and the same trucks doing the same jobs suddenly produce more profit per job than they ever did standing alone. The founder in that Tucson deal kept a quarter of the business and said the investment took a lot of the stress out of simply running it. Number 19. Escape rooms and immersive entertainment. This one surprised me. A single franchise group in this space is sitting on $90 million in system-wide revenue across 150 locations in cities like Dubai, London, New York, and Singapore. Margins run 30 to 50%. It turns out people worldwide will pay for an experience that AI genuinely cannot replicate because the entire product is being physically present with other humans, solving something together in a room with your hands. That might sound like a small detail, but it's actually the whole reason this industry has kept growing, even as more and more entertainment moves onto a screen. You can't outsource teamwork with your actual friends to an app. Number 18. Optometry practices. Everyone's eyesight eventually needs checking. And once someone's getting an exam, they're usually also buying frames and lenses right there in the same building. That retail attachment is what pushes margins up to 25 to 40%, well above what most healthcare practices see. Number 17. Uniform and linen rental, done at scale. This industry got serious validation recently when one of the giants in the space acquired a competitor for $5.5 billion. The model is simple. Restaurants and hospitals and hotels need clean uniforms and linens every single week, forever. And once you're on their route, you're not getting replaced easily. Number 16. Security and alarm monitoring. Names like ADT and Ring didn't invent this model, they just scaled it. Once a system is installed, the real business is the monthly monitoring fee, paid whether anything happens or not. That recurring revenue is exactly why buyers pay a premium for these companies when they eventually sell. Number 15. Indoor golf simulators. One franchise brand runs venues generating $1 million to $3 million a year, with 15 to 25% margins on the entertainment side and up to 60% on the membership-only model. Golf used to require a course, weather, and half a day. Now it requires a bay, a screen, and about an hour. Same sport, completely different business. Number 14. Mailbox and shipping stores. One brand alone has over 5,200 locations, and the quiet secret of this business is that shipping barely makes money. It's the mailbox rentals sitting in the background that are close to pure profit. Typical owners clear somewhere around $100,000 to $120,000 a year off a business most people assume is just a shipping counter. Nobody walks in thinking about the mailboxes. That's exactly the point. Number 13. Gym and fitness franchises. This is now a $96.7 billion global industry, and margins run 15 to 40% depending on the model. Boutique studios, the specialized ones built around one specific workout, hit the highest end of that range because a small footprint and a strong community command premium pricing. One brand that started in Australia has now expanded globally, generating over $1 million a week in revenue across its studios. That's the pattern again, a concept that works in one country, proven and repeatable, then simply exported somewhere else with the exact same demand underneath it. People wanting to be fit, and increasingly, wanting to belong to a community while they do it. Number 12. Funeral homes. I'll be honest, this one felt strange to include next to gyms and coffee shops. But the numbers don't lie, and neither does the demand. Margins run 10 to 30%, and this is about as close to genuinely recession-proof as a business gets, because the need for this service has never once in human history disappeared during a downturn. It's not the kind of business anyone dreams about as a kid. But the families running these companies, often for generations, provide something every single culture on Earth has needed since the beginning of civilization: a way to say goodbye with dignity. That combination of permanent demand and genuine human necessity is rare. And it's exactly why this industry has stayed quietly, consistently profitable for as long as it's existed. Number 11. Commercial cleaning franchises. One real case, a semi-absentee owner, went from $550,000 in revenue to $1.5 million in 5 years without personally cleaning a single office. The model is built to be run, not worked. That distinction matters more than almost anything else on this list. Everything you've seen so far makes real money. Good margins, steady demand, proven in more than one country. But the next 10 don't just make good money, they make serious money. This is where the numbers start getting harder to believe. Number 10, home inspection. Gross margins run 65 to 80% because the overhead is close to nothing: a car, a flashlight, and a clipboard. One well-known franchise in this space averages $270,000 a year for its owners. Every single home sale, everywhere, needs one of these, and the certification to get started usually costs under $50,000, sometimes far less. Number 9. Martial arts studios. Gross margins here run as high as 70 to 97%. And the membership model means an owner can genuinely step back from teaching classes entirely and still collect steady monthly revenue. One listing I found showed a studio generating over $400,000 a year, fully absentee-owned. Number 8. Tax preparation. Once someone trusts you with their taxes, they come back every single year, for years, sometimes decades. That's about as sticky as a customer relationship gets. It's seasonal, which some people see as a downside, but it also means low overhead the rest of the year. And it is one of the more recession-resistant categories on this entire list, because taxes don't stop being due just because the economy slows down. Number 7. Veterinary clinics. People will cut their own spending before they cut spending on their pets. And that emotional reality is the entire business model. Margins run 15 to 25%. Revenue ranges from $300,000 to $5 million. And this pattern holds up almost identically whether you're looking at Australia, New Zealand, or the United States. In Australia specifically, roughly 73% of households own a pet, which tells you the demand side of this equation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Number 6. Dental practices. Margins here run 30 to 40%, among the highest of any healthcare category on this list. And the average practice pulls in over $1 million a year. Every human being on Earth has teeth, and every one of those sets of teeth eventually needs attention. That's about as close to universal demand as a business idea gets. Multi-chair practices, the ones with 2 or 3 dentists working under one roof, do even better, because the fixed costs, the building, the front desk, the equipment, get spread across more billable hours in the same space. One doctor working alone caps out. A well-run group practice doesn't have that same ceiling. Number 5. Chiropractic clinics. One nationally franchised chain in this space runs a 33% profit margin, which puts it in the same league as companies like Target and Walmart. It gets there through a strange kind of discipline: low prices, high volume, and a tightly managed system that keeps patients coming back on a schedule. Most independent chiropractors in this industry are solo operators, and the vast majority of the market, over 95%, is still independently owned. That means there's still enormous room for someone to come in with a systematic, franchise-style approach and genuinely stand out in a field mostly made up of one-person practices. Number 4. Pet care services. Boarding, daycare, grooming. This global market is projected to hit $530 billion by 2032. And the driver behind it is something demographers call pet humanization. People increasingly treating pets as family members, not property. That shift is happening in wealthy countries everywhere, at roughly the same pace. Walk into any modern dog daycare and you'll see what this actually looks like on the ground. Cameras, so owners can check in during the workday. Swimming pools, birthday parties for dogs. That might sound excessive if you don't own a pet. If you do, you already know exactly why people are paying for it. Number 3. Healthcare and specialty staffing agencies. This might be the single most efficient business on this entire list to actually start. Margins run 15 to 30%, and you can genuinely begin from your home with your phone and a laptop. Hospitals and clinics everywhere are chronically understaffed, and that gap isn't closing anytime soon. Some of the largest staffing companies in the world, the ones now worth tens of billions of dollars, started as exactly this: one person with a phone list of qualified candidates and a handful of employers who needed them filled fast. The business hasn't fundamentally changed. What's changed is how large it can now get. Number 2, tutoring and learning center franchises. One brand alone operates in 62 countries with more than 25,000 locations. Let that number sit for a second, 25,000. That's not a business model that worked once in one country by accident. That's a business model that has now been proven over and over on every continent with a school system, which is every continent. The founder started it in 1956 because his own son was struggling with math. He wrote out practice sheets by hand. Neighbors asked him to help their kids too. That's the entire origin story of a company that now serves over 4 million students worldwide. It didn't start as a franchise plan. It started as one parent solving one problem, and the problem turned out to be universal. Which brings us to number 1, senior and home care agencies. A single office in this business can generate $1.5 to $2.5 million a year, with margins between 12 and 20%. One major brand in this space is already operating in 5 different countries, built entirely around one simple, permanent fact. Every developed country on Earth has an aging population, and that population overwhelmingly wants to stay in their own home instead of moving into a facility. That's not a trend, that's biology. Every single country, without exception, is getting older, not younger. The number of people over 60 worldwide is expected to roughly double by 2050. That's not a marketing projection from some company trying to sell you a franchise. That's a demographic fact from the World Health Organization, and it applies whether you're looking at Tokyo, Toronto, or a small town in Texas. This business also solves for something deeply human, not just financial. Families want their parents cared for by someone, and increasingly, that someone can't be them because they're working or living in another city or simply don't have the medical training to do it safely. That gap between what families want to provide and what they're actually able to provide, that's the entire business. So here's the pattern hiding underneath all 38 of these. None of them needed a genius idea. None of them needed venture capital or a pitch deck or a garage in Silicon Valley. Every single one of them is a permanent human need, dressed up as something completely unremarkable, that somebody, somewhere, decided to actually build a real business around. A tow truck. A tutoring center. A vet clinic. A phone that keeps ringing in a small office nobody's ever heard of. And the honest truth is, most of us walk past these businesses every single day without a second thought, because they don't look like wealth. They look like nothing. That's not an accident. That's the entire reason the people running them aren't fighting off 100 competitors. I think about it like 2 people in 2 different countries doing the exact same thing. One of them spends years chasing an idea nobody's ever built before, competing against 1,000 other people chasing that exact same idea at the exact same time. The other one looks at what already provably works in 4 different countries and just decides to be the person willing to build it properly. Different country, same decision, same result. That's the whole video, really. 38 businesses, one repeating pattern, sitting in plain sight in every country on Earth, waiting for someone willing to actually start.